Alright, so here is my TILP presentation, my technology-induced lesson plan. We'll just start by going to the first slide here. Ooh, see if I can go back. There we go. My introduction. So I'm Andrew, secondary education mathematics. I conducted this my technology-induced lesson plan in a 6th grade classroom that is at East Grand Rapids Middle School. It's a pretty urban school. The age range is from about 11 to 13 years old, 6th grade, so there's kind of a range in there. And then the demographic, it was about 92% white to about 8% African American. There was really no other minorities other than African American in there. And it was about almost half and half. It was about 54% male, 46% female. There were no English language learners in my class. All the students I had, English would be their first language, so there's none of that in there. And then mostly the kids that are in the class are in middle class families. So there are a few that are upper, higher class, and there are a couple that are lower, but for the most part, everything was right there in that middle class families. Moving on to why I chose this project. So the main reason why I chose this lesson for the assignment was because it was the next lesson that we were supposed to do for our upcoming unit. The classroom that I'm in uses a lot of technology on a day-to-day basis, so it wasn't really hard trying to figure out a lesson to incorporate like technology into. So I thought that using the upcoming lesson will allow me to focus more on the technology aspect though. So even though technology is kind of in each of our lesson plan, technology itself I was able to focus more on by using the upcoming one. Professionally, I think this could help me because it represents that I could adapt a lesson in order to contribute more technology into it. It will also represent that I have a plan to teach Common Core standards such as the one I have here, 5.NBT period B period 6, by using the technology standards 2B and 2A. I meant 6A. So the standard here was to find whole number quotients of whole numbers with up to 4-digit dividends and 2-digit divisors using strategies based on place values, properties of operations, and the relationship between multiplication and division. So the project was cards of division problems. They had to place them in order of what they thought was smallest to biggest, and then they would use a discussion board to discuss their ideas. And then the two technology Common Cores that I used were digital citizenship and creative communicator. So these two just kind of have them take ownership and then kind of put their own thoughts for creativeness in the project. When I was thinking about what to do for this lesson plan, I thought about it in about 6 steps. So I first thought about what style of technology I wanted to use. So since we use technology on a day-to-day basis of most times, I chose that I wanted to use a Google Classroom discussion board because it was a way for students to communicate their thoughts throughout all of my hours, whether it was 2nd, 3rd, or 4th. Then I chose what standard to use. I chose this, like I said, it was the next standard or form of learning that was scheduled for our class was about the whole number and quotients, so that's why I used it. 3rd was style of teaching, whether it was lecture, notes, however. My students have been learning best with the majority of use of group work, so that's why I chose it. Activity to do. Chose this activity because it was interactive. It covered a major point of the standard. By doing this, the activity, the students had to indirectly think of how values of quotients affect each other. Like, the idea wasn't for them to say exactly how they were affected, but by them doing the activity and participating in what was smaller, what was larger, they could they could indirectly see how they affected one another. How I wanted to incorporate technology. Since I knew I wanted to use Google Classroom discussion as my form of technology, creating a discussion board for them to talk about their answers would be a great and easy way for them to do so. And then finally, I thought about what form of formative assessment I would use. Usually I do the whole thumbs up, thumbs middle, thumbs down. And so here I was able to kind of scratch what we usually do, and kind of switch it up a little bit, and I was able to use this form of technology to do the same thing, except it was even better, this form of technology, the way to do it. Description. The technology that I chose to use adds value to my TILP because it gives each of the students an extended form of collaboration and it documents it. This form of technology allowed students, like I said, in second hour to see the thoughts of students in fourth hour, so it gave a lot more collaboration of how to do it. This was the main reason why I chose this form of technology. I wanted the students to be able to discuss with one another on a scale. I also thought of this because it was a more effective way to formatively assess the students. Like I said, this form of technology is a replacement when you think of it in the form of the RAP. It replaces because it could be done in a form of face-to-face, but I chose to go a different route with it. What was learned after conducting the TILP? I learned that incorporating technology into a lesson plan these days isn't as hard as I thought beforehand. The school that I'm at has technology in almost everything, so without even thinking about it, putting technology into something wasn't too hard because we have it on an every day-to-day basis. It could be different if I was at a different school, but with how it is at this school, technology isn't too difficult to incorporate into a classroom, especially, and it's very useful if you can do it in the right way. And then finally, my kind of conclusion, final thoughts for what I could do in the future. In the future, I would plan on teaching this lesson again if I had the opportunity. I think that whether or not I use this exact lesson with the technology would be if the school I'm at had the same means to do so. So like I was saying, with how easy I thought it was to incorporate technology, it does depend on the school. So depending on the school, I would want to incorporate this again if they had the means to do so. And then finally, the main change that I would do in future would be more on a timing aspect. This lesson kind of spelled into a second day just to kind of discuss what was going on. We could discuss everyone's thoughts in the discussion board, but I would want to make sure I time it out good enough that we don't have to do it on that second day. We can just keep it all on that first day so the students kind of don't forget what we were doing necessarily. I know it's only one day, but the minds of a sixth grader can really start to go very quickly. So that would probably be the biggest change I had. But that is the idea of my TILP. So have a great winter break, everybody.